You're listening to Tremendous Leadership with Dr. Tracy Jones.
Hi, everyone. This is Tracy Jones, and here to introduce to you the latest episode of the Leaders on Leadership podcast, where we pull back the curtain on leadership and talk with leaders of all ages and stages about what it takes to actually pay the price of leadership. And today, I'm very excited to introduce to you my guest, Gary Hillerich. Let me tell you a little bit about Gary. Gary Hillerich is an attorney practicing in Louisville, Kentucky, where he's built his career in law. He and his wife, Vicki, have been married for 49 years, and together they have 3 tremendous daughters, 3 tremendous son-in-laws, and 6 sometimes tremendous, he put that in there, grandkids, 3 boys and 3 girls. Gary found his way to me through an email where he shared his lifelong love of Charlie Tremendous Jones, and whose message reached him decades ago and still resonates today. Gary, welcome. We are delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Dr. Jones, for having me. It's a real pleasure.
You are so welcome. And Gary, you please call me Tracy for this. I so appreciate you using my title. But brother, we are brother and sister here today. And the email that I got from Gary for our listeners, he had recalled, of course, some of Charles's jokes. He had heard a recording, a vinyl, and I do have a lot of Dad's vinyl, but he said it was a speech where he talked about the kid that had the $5,000 puppy for sale. And if you haven't ever heard that joke, it's in Life is Tremendous. You need to get that. But Gary, do you want to share about the first time where you either heard my father in person or first heard his messages?
Sure. I was given a tape, a copy, maybe a 3rd generation. And I would say it was in 1977 or 78. It was before I got out of law school. And I listened to it, and he was absolutely, no pun intended, tremendous. He truly was. He is the gold standard. And I was hooked. And he started me down the motivational trail. And after Charles E. Tremendous Jones, I listened to Zig Ziglar, Dennis Waitley, Norman Vincent Peale, and so many others. But Charlie was always the gold standard that I went back to. And I would think that I probably listened to that tape, without exaggeration, several hundred times over all of those years. I just kept playing it. And when I needed inspiration, when I was a little bit down, I would plug in Charlie E. Tremendous Jones and he would bring me up. It was his humanity. He had, as he often says, he puts down the barriers. He put down the barrier, and he connected in such a way that he would inspire me. And I listened to him repeatedly. In any event, after so many years, I gave that tape away to a dear friend that is now deceased. And I lost it. So that's why, Tracy, I contacted you, because I wanted another.
Oh, right. And we're still sorting through. We have a lot of stuff you guys can get on our website. We have a lot of stuff digitized. And then, Gary, I'm not sure if you know this, but under the Tremendous Life books, there's a YouTube channel where everything that anybody sends me, I have put up there. So you may even be able to find it there, but looking for it. So that's why. So it just came to your mind that particular day, and you thought, I'm gonna check out. Did you just Google Charlie Tremendous Jones and we came up? Is that how you found us?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then he got online, he got some DVDs, and now we are lifelong buddies and able to continue to supply his motivational personal development fix. So, Gary, thank you so much for sharing that. Do you want to show the book that you have too?
Yes, and I found this. I had not seen it for some time, but it's 1983 copyright that I have in my desk. And I've pulled it up many times over the years, but I have not looked at it in the last 6 months or a year. But I found it, and it means a great deal to me.
Thank you, Gary.
Charlie.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we're going to get into one of the things, and just so you know, Life is Tremendous is still out there. It's never gone out of print. First came out in '67, so it's people like you, Gary, that are resonating with the message and sharing. But today, we're going to talk about another one of my father's speeches, one that had some humor in it, but as you said, it was the humanity, and he talks about the price of leadership. And his point is, if you are going to be a leader in reality and not a leader in name only, as we we say, there's a price you're going to have to pay. And it is a tough price, but it is so worth it. And Gary, he outlines 4 different things to be prepared for. And the first of those that he talks about is loneliness as a leader. And we've all heard about that. It's lonely at the top. Can you share with us from your experience as a leader, maybe a season where you experienced loneliness? And for our listeners out there, what resource might you share with them to help them if they are in that space?
Well, first of all, I would never claim to be a leader. But having said that, what I do in my practice, I'm a plaintiff personal injury lawyer, and I have handled, I've been practicing now 47 years. So I've handled hundreds of death cases, every type of injury imaginable, not to be negative. But I've seen people come through crisis, catastrophe, and the human condition, the way they come through it is truly amazing. And I've experienced that. And it's tough as a lawyer to even hear these stories. But for people that actually go through it, I can't imagine. But anyway, in these cases that I handled with respect to loneliness, you say, every case I handle, if I'm going to trial, you can't lead by committee. There comes a time when a decision has to be made. If there's money on the table, if a case is going to settle, if it's not going to settle, it's a lonely decision. And the client doesn't need someone to be equivocating. And I need to be reasonable. I need to look at the facts. And it's a lonely decision to make because I can have a tremendous effect upon someone's life and have one way or the other. So those, when you say a resource, I would say it's based primarily on just experience, scars, going through the process and having years upon years of experience. And it is a lonely decision.
Well, I'm so glad you used that word equivocating. And I think that's good to let people know that, because in today's leadership world, and by the way, the fact that you say you're not a leader means you are. So I'll say you're a leader because I had to laugh when you said that. I'm like, that means you are what, Gary? A lot of people will sit there and say, well, with leadership, none of us is as smart as all of us. We know that. And we're constantly looking for feedback and support and advocacy and people pouring into us. But like you said, when it gets down to who signs that or who says yes or no, when something's on the table, it is up to the individual. And so that's a wonderful reminder that in the end, there are a lot of things in life that only you can sign on the dotted line for, and that can feel lonely. But as like you said, get your counsel and stay prayed up, but then you have to go with it.
And it reminds me of what I've heard Charlie say so many times on that tape: make a decision, make it yours, burn it into your heart and die by it.
Absolutely, and die by it. And he also said he never saw a monument in a park dedicated to a committee. So that was the other thing he would always say too. So he understood sooner or later you got to, I love that. Make a decision, make it yours and die by it. I love it, Gary. All right, the next thing he talked about was weariness. And I can remember him telling me, Tracy, as you go through life, you're going to be surrounded with some people that do more than than what you've asked of them, but the vast majority are going to do less. And it wasn't that he was dogging on people. You know how Charles loved people, but he was, like I said, he was very pragmatic. And he's like, it's going to be tiring and you're going to go through seasons of weariness. And watching him as a little girl grow up, I saw when he would enter that. Can you share with us, Gary, your seasons of weariness? And again, how did you navigate out of them?
As I believe Charlie said, preparation. And when I get ready to try a case, only I can get it in my head. Only I can do that. And what I do, no matter how big the file is, I'll go home and alone. I totally take the file apart and reassemble it until I know everything in it. It's preparation. And there's so many nights clients won't have a clue, and they shouldn't. But I've always been told if it looks smooth, it's not happenstance. It's because you're prepared. And when I go to court, I've worked many nights well into the early morning hours. not because I wanted to, but because I had to. You have to be prepared, and weariness is part of it. You
Yes.
have to put in the effort, or you're not going to get anything back out.
I love it. Well, that kind of takes us into the next point, which is abandonment. And abandonment isn't fear of abandonment or abandoning a spouse or a pet. Charles always told me that he did more in a day to contribute to his failure than his success. And I said, well, that doesn't compute. And he said, because it's so difficult to not to want to focus on what you like and want to do and not what you ought and need to do. And you hit that on with weariness. It's not that you want to work late, but you had to. And that is going to be draining. So talk to us, Gary, about abandonment. I know you shared with us how you stay really singularly focused on a case. But can you share with us how you deal with that? Because I know you've got a lot of demands, a lot of things that pop up. The law is changing. And you're a father, a husband, a grandfather, all those other things.
Well, I remember again on the tape that I listened to so much of Charlie. He said, they don't pay me much money to do the things I really like to do, but they paid me $25,000 to do the things I didn't like to do. So learning how to do what you need to do and learning how to love what you need to do
Yes.
is transformative. And, again, Charlie really made an impact on me with some of these statements. And you just simply must enjoy the ride. And the more you work, the more you put into it, the more satisfaction you get out of the work as you put into it. Mm-hmm. And you do, I find that when everybody loses cases, but when I win a case, it's almost a letdown in some respects because the process, all the work of getting there is what is really enjoyable. That's what it is.
That is. Well, Charles would say that work is the great healer for everything. You work. You're sad, you work. You're depressed, you work. You feel like a failure, get in there and work. Because the worst thing you can do is turn around and just start sucking your thumb. And Gary, I love that you said learning to love. So much of us, well, I don't like this, or I'm not feeling it. That's not, just like marriage, where he would say to Gloria, honey, I don't feel like I'm married. You know what I'm saying? He says, what if I would have rolled over and said that on week 3? And she's like, don't you talk so stupid, So I love that you talked about anything that God has put in our laps and set us about to do and place us in that position, you can learn to love. And I love that you said that. It is a process.
I tell young people all the time, just do it. Activity, just get out and do it. Take a step. I've had so many times in my life where I've been so afraid of things, and I've had my knees knock, my voice crack, and I tell young people that don't be afraid of being afraid. Do it. Take a step. And as the old saying is, you can eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the things we need to abandon is that fear, because that'll pull you off course and have you start and second guessing yourself. So I'm glad you said that because, we see lawyers and we think they already know everything and what's going to end up. And you guys go through it just like us.
Same. We're no better, no worse.
Yeah.
We're all in it together.
I love it, Gary. All right. So we talked about loneliness. We talked about weariness. We talked about abandonment. And now the last point that my father talked about was vision. And I can remember, you mentioned some of them, Charles, and then Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn. And so I'm growing up watching all these visionaries and I'm like, okay, I get it. But they speak a language I don't think I'll ever speak. And I can remember discussing this with my dad and he goes, no. Vision is simply seeing what needs to be done and then doing it. So again, very practical. You know what I'm saying? So what you want, attraction, but as you said, the root word is action, doing it, just do it. So how do you cultivate your vision in life for your family or what's for the business?
Very interestingly, I started doing affirmations years ago, and I set my goals. And I have actually a tape that's 15 minutes long that I created probably in the early 80s with affirmations on it.
Okay.
And I probably listened to that thousands and thousands of times. But the vision on it, for example, one of them would be, I radiate calm, strength, and stability. I maintain my weight at 160 pounds, the vision. And I can tell you in 40 years, my weight has not fluctuated 5 pounds.
Wow.
Now, I attribute that to the vision in the affirmation. I think they're extremely important, and I picked some of that up from, or a great deal of it, from Lou Tice. And there's a number of people that use affirmations, but I think that they are very, very important because many of my affirmations that I made 40 years ago have come true. But simply stated, you take a step, you see how far you can go, you have a concrete goal. You must have some type of goal. And I encourage young people not to be brave with your goals. Don't sell yourself short. You never know where you're going unless you set that goal, and set it big. Set it big, dream big, believe in yourself. That's vision.
I love it. And that takes us to the SIBKISS principle, right? See it big.
See it big, keep it simple.
Keep it simple. And that's what the $5,000 dog joke is all about. See it big. I can't tell you, like I said, you got to get Life is Tremendous to read it. So tell me about, for our listeners out there, again, and I am an auditory learner kind of thing, but I have never recorded 15 minutes of my affirmations. Walk us through that. Do you hit all the different areas of your life? And I love the specificity, but if our listeners are out there, I think one of the key takeaways they're going to do is to record this. And you said 15 minutes. Can you walk us through that, how you came up with that? And have you changed it since when you recorded it back in the 80s?
I have not changed it.
I love it.
I have it on my phone.
Okay.
And Dropbox. But what I did, and I even experimented a little bit with subliminal messages or subliminal music in it. I don't know whether that had any effect or not, but I recorded or sit down and thought about what my goals should be and would be. And I wrote down these, there's 15 minutes of them, but I repeated them on the tape 6 times. So when I start out, I radiate calm, strength, stability, and wisdom. I maintain my weight at 160 pounds. I repeat that 6 times. I just put it in the car or at home, whatever, and I'll listen to it. And it's 15 minutes long. And some days I'll listen to it 2 or 3 times, some days 1 time. But that's basically what I did. But I gave a great deal of thought into what those affirmations should contain and the wording of those affirmations. And they're very positive. There's no negativity whatsoever in those affirmations. And I say them as if they are achieved already. And I think they've been useful.
Well, the subconscious is where everything happens. And there's a reason for that. That's why God made our fabulous minds, which we have the mind of to deal with that. So thank you so much for sharing that. I know our listeners are going to probably be doing this. I know I'm going to sit down and record mine. I have journals and journals and journals upon it written, but I love that you shared that, Gary. And I love your attitude, what you shared. And it's probably why, Gary, you're probably the only lawyer I've seen online that has all 5-star reviews. Did you know that?
No.
Okay. Because for any of you that have used lawyers, it's like, well, there's always people that are really happy, and then there's a lot of people that are really upset. So I'm like, wow. I mean, I knew you were tremendous, but obviously in your zone of expertise, you are. So, Gary, anything else? We talked about loneliness, weariness, abandonment, and vision. Anything else that you would like to share with our listeners on what it takes to pay the price of leadership?
I would simply say that, again, going back to Charlie, get the barriers down.
Okay.
If you really want to communicate with people, get rid of the arrogance. Get rid of the things that separate us. It doesn't hurt to smile. It doesn't hurt to say a kind word. Put the barriers down and let somebody really see your heart and see who you are. And once the barriers are down, it really opens up and facilitates conversation.
Wow. And he would say that you cannot have communication without identification. There's a wall up there, and no matter how brilliant you are, compelling it is, or you give somebody $1 million, you are not communicating. So unpack this. In your profession, it seems like it's very much the line is drawn, the enemy's over here, and the other side is over here. Can you share how you've applied that in your professional vocation?
Well, the line is drawn on many occasions, but it's amazing how when the barriers come down, say we're in a mediation, and I recently was in a mediation in a large case, and we had fought the case for years, and we were in the mediation, and the barriers ultimately came down. And once the barriers came down, I started seeing their side of it. They started seeing my side of it. And before you knew it, we resolved the case.
Wow.
And so it's just getting the barriers down.
Yeah,
And letting your humanity show.
Yep. Excellent. So, as I said, Gary's in Louisville, and I have to show you this. So, I went to the post office in Boiling Springs a couple weeks ago, and the postmaster pulled out this really long box that said, clearly it was a baseball bat. And I'm thinking, and I looked at her, I said, oh no, I said, you must have that marked on. And she goes, no, this is for you. And I recognized Gary's name on it. So Gary got me this fabulous Louisville Slugger. Look at that with my name on it. It's so tremendous. And then he put a note on there. He says, this is for when you go speaking, so you can take it up on stage and tell people they can hit a home run in their life. And then he got one for my husband too. And Mike said he wanted to have them framed, crossed with one of our wedding pictures in there. And I said, oh, no, we're not going to have that.
Just don't hit each other with them.
I know. Well, then I could put it in there. I thought that leave it to a Marine to come up with that. So again, Gary, thank you so much. Gary, how do people reach out and get in touch with you?
office@GaryHillerich.com.
Excellent.
We'll do it. And may I say one more thing about Charlie?
Please, Gary.
Okay. My mentor died back in 1995, and at his funeral, Frank Haddad was his name. I was one of the people who gave his eulogy, and this applies to Charlie. I said one thing about him, that he was not so great because he was superhuman. He was so great because he was so human. He represented, as does Charlie, the best that the human condition has to offer.
Oh boy. Wow. Thank you, Gary. For our listeners out there, you know how I love talking about leadership, but when I get people that actually met my father and are still sharing this and living this, and Gary, I just know you are embodying everything that he taught and paying the price, being so human and connecting with other people. So thank you for what you shared with our listeners and what you shared about my father. It means a great deal.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Gary. For our listeners out there, if you like what you heard or think somebody else could be inspired or informed by it, please be sure and hit the like button, share it with others. Also, if you'd leave us a 5-star review, that really helps get people find out what's going on with us. And never forget, you'll be the same person 5 years from now that you are today, except for 2 things: the people you meet and the books you read. You just met the tremendous Gary Hillerich. You just heard about the book that he read back in the 80s that is still connecting us today. What a blessing it is. And just to our tremendous leadership fans, thank you so much. We couldn't do it without you. You all have a tremendous rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Tremendous Leadership with Dr. Tracy Jones. Find out more about Dr. Jones at www.tremendousleadership.com. If you've been ignited by something you heard in this episode, let us know by leaving a review for Tremendous Leadership wherever you listen to podcasts, or by sending us a message through www.tremendousleadership.com.